What's up, everybody? Welcome to a very special edition of Fig Night at the Tavern. It is me, the OG Fig Kid, Thomas Montalto. Joining me as usual, my tag partner, the hottest tag partner in the business.
Good old Mike Bellcaster, and welcome to a beautiful, wonderful, special edition of Fig Night. We have not only me and Tom here, but we have our two special, very, very special guests. We got the one and only Steve Ozer from Mattel himself. Mwah. Thank you, Steve, for joining us. And the one and only Sam Roberts also joining us. Guys, what is up? Thank you for taking the time out of your beautiful Tuesday nights to come hang out here and talk about all things WCW Ultimate Edition staging, man.
Our pleasure. I mean, thank you for having us. It's super cool to be doing this with Sam as well. A rare non-elite squad appearance.
Yeah, this is a social. This is a social meeting. This counts as just, especially after all we did a lot of official elite squad business in LA a couple of weeks ago. I mean, it was like, I don't know how you felt, Steve, but just the fact that it was in Mattel's backyard. I get the email right from WWE and Mattel going like, hey, and I told you, Steve, they go, it was before WrestleMania. They go, for WrestleMania, we've got Mattel's doing a bunch of stuff, and they'd love to have you for something on Wednesday and something on Tuesday, and then some stuff in between too. And I go, you mean Tuesday and Wednesday, right? And they went, no. Wednesday and Tuesday. Mattel had an entire week of stuff planned, and I'm you guys got to see most of it through all the coverage of everything. It was pretty amazing.
Yeah,
it was intense. I think the bonus for me this time is we don't have to bribe you with Raising Cane's chicken, Sam.
No, Bill still got me on Tuesday. Bill still got me.
Man, this is so exciting. I mean, you guys all have something up on me. You've all seen the stage in person. I haven't seen the stage in person. So, Sam, tell me, what was it like when you first saw it, when you walked in and you saw that beautiful WCW stage?
It's so cool because, I don't think you really realize it's like the new generation arena only times 10 in the sense that you don't realize the scope of this thing until you see it in front of your face. Not just the fact that it's big, but the fact that it's appropriately big, like it's scaled so huge, like you really start to use the size to build something that is truly to scale, which we've seen so rarely. Like we were so kind of, the Nitro arena that Toy Biz made years and years and years ago, where the WCW logos are like this big. It was like at the time we didn't have anything like that, so it was like, this is cool. And even then, you go forward into wrestling action figure history and the Titantron and the SmackDown stage and all these like amazing play sets that have added to this thing. I don't think people realize how far forward a step the Nitro arena is, and the fact that I go, okay, well, I saw it. I was lucky that I saw what they had in San Diego, right? But I go, yeah, that's the display piece. That's the corporate thing. We just made this for a display. I said, like, I want to see what the one that we're actually crowdfunding with. And I get there and I'm like, this is it. This is the one. Like we're actually getting the one. It's incredible.
Yeah, no, I do have to agree on like speaking towards that, like seeing it in person, like when you're walking through that superstore, that whole vibe, right? You see it in person, you're like, my God, you got the figures on the stage, you're really getting the whole grasp of sizing, how big it is, how accurate it is. It's mind blowing, man. It really is. It was breathtaking. I remember I walked to the bill and I was just like, dude. And he's like, what? And I was like, you outdid yourselves with this. Like, this is so great. And then I mean, we were privileged enough to see the Raw arena you guys are working on, and it was beautiful, right? Just the fact that you are taking the attention of detail to size these things appropriately to make them fit not only in our figure collection, but like a beautiful setting, right? It takes your breath away. It is a very, very beautiful piece of anybody's collection. I can't wait for everybody to have it in their collection.
Sorry, I'm a little distracted. I was about to try to post a story with the link so more people can join us, just to make sure everybody's aware. So I'll do that in a second. But I did bring the set into the room with me. I'm at work still, by the way. Shout out to my director, Joseph, for letting me do this podcast here. Usually I do these things from home. So I'll move the computer a little bit closer in a little bit so we can take a look. But we've got it here. I have a raw ring here for scale reference. So when we move things around, you'll really get a sense of the scale of the stage. And of course, I brought this stuff. I was hoping to build it all before and have a Nitro ring here, but it didn't work out. I had meetings right up until podcast time, but that's okay. So we'll take a look at this in a little bit. But it's massive, it's huge, and I think seeing it in person makes such a huge difference. So I am glad we got to do that at the Superstore this year. Because we weren't able to do that with the New Generation Arena.
Yeah.
The other thing that I thought was really cool that I didn't realize until I was there, I was seeing it in person, I was talking to you guys, and we talked about this, I think, a little bit in the live stream that we did, is like kind of the way it's built and the way that we will build it, like once we get it, is like getting to go to WWE shows. Like I geek out over all the little tiny details. Like I like getting to a show really early and watching them not just build the ring, but build everything, seeing the wires on the ground, seeing how the Tron is connected, seeing where the pyro's set up and everything. And just the fact that this arena was built and modeled around what the roadies at the time would have done, so that when we're building this, that we're running wire through the kind of scaffolding type stuff that they have, the way that somebody in Atlanta or whatever arena they were in on any given night, the way the roadies would have been running wire through there to get their lighting set up.
Yeah,
you'll get to do it, on the stage, and I just geek out over those little details.
Yeah. And I think having somebody like Mike designing the stage itself helped, because I'm a superstar kind of guy, and gear and moments, and some of those details would be lost on me, and maybe speaking for Bill McKenna possibly as well. He'll get into the weeds with detail, but the fine tuning and details that Mike was able to bring out on this is just unbelievable. Just things I wouldn't have even thought of. I think I mentioned in one of the other interviews I did that the light sequences, I never noticed that they were unique. Ric Flair had a unique light sequence. I had no idea, but they did.
Yeah.
And not just the sequences, right? I was talking to Mike about that too. And he will watch hours and hours and hours and hours of tape and just watch entrance after entrance after entrance and figure out okay, I see that lighting rig is the same. And he told me that he goes and looks up what lighting rig were they using. He'll go to suppliers spots and go, okay, it's 1997. What lighting rig would they have been using? And then he'll see a picture of just the rig that one would buy. And then he'll match it up with the show so that we're getting these versions of not just something that kind of looks like it, or not just okay, we'll make a circle because that's what the light would look like. It's literally the hardware. It's designed after the actual model of the hardware that was used. I mean, it's in the level of detail. I feel once it's in hand, you'll still be spending weeks going through it and finding all these tiny little things that you never would notice.
100%. And what a labor of love does it tell you that the dedication from the Mattel team on building this thing. That was the impressive thing of seeing it in person. Every little detail is there. The wiring, the scaffolding, the just the stage presence itself. It's massive, man. It's so beautiful to witness. It's amazing, man.
Can I just be a playful smart aleck now with some of the comments?
Please, yeah.
I'm here, people. I'm here. Nobody cares about Warrior and Hogan. Sting would have got it to 5K. Well, guess what? If we had Sting, maybe he would have been included, right? He's not with WWE, but thank you for that input. Thank you.
Yeah. No, like
Have you
not only
thought of Sting? Have you thought of including Sting?
but yeah, I mean that's the thing too. We have to take what we have here as at value. That's the thing. People want Sting, they want the Glaciers, they want all these La Parkas and stuff like that. But I would love a La Parka with a chair. Not just throwing it out there. But
Steve, La Parka would have gotten this to 5,000 already. What were you guys not thinking?
but like we are getting a fair share of the talent that we have an opportunity to get at the moment, and that's okay. Like we have to take that at face value, right?
I mean,
yeah. I mean, we see everything. Of course, we saw a request to change the tiers around, which we were able to with moving Scott Steiner up to be included. And then others were just like, I want the Ray. Like, okay, some of you don't, but I do. So you kind of see everything. So I think the goal when you do lineups, and this you can consider it a lineup of figures, is you try to make it as appealing as possible to all fans, right?
Yeah.
And if you focus in on, Lodi, Glacier, Mortis, Alex Wright, what does that get you in the pool of hardcore collectors, right?
Yeah.
It probably doesn't get you the fully unlocked, amount of backers in reality, right?
100%.
If we were able to throw in a couple of those, would that have been cool? Yes. It just, circumstances don't allow it sometimes.
Yeah. But I mean, I'm just saying, I would prefer not to have an Alex Wright, right?
We would have all done an Alex Wright dance at the Superstore if he was included.
I just laugh seeing people's comments saying, hey, why don't you, like you said, Sting? Like, obviously, if he was under contract, there would be a chance of us having him. You can only work with what we're given. And unfortunately, you picked the best out of what we had. We're getting a first time in a line guy. We're getting the first Ultimate Edition DDP.
Mm-hmm.
We're getting figures we don't have these Ultimate Editions. We're probably not getting without this chance here. So
yeah,
it's the same thing like last year. And like you guys, Sam nailed it when he was talking about building the stage like it's built. That was one of the most exciting things for me last year, building the new gen ring. Like putting that together, I felt like I was putting together a real ring, and we did it live on here.
We had fun,
putting the wood in and putting everything together. That was a blast. And man, you talk about stages. Now, I was always more of a WWE guy, but to me, that WCW Nitro stage, like that's iconic. That's an iconic stage. I don't know if there's a more iconic stage you could start with. I mean, some people are probably going to yell at me and say, sure. But man, and I like to tell people this stage could double as just any stage for figure photography. You don't have to put the WCW stuff up. You could use the lighting and everything.
Or move it. We're on the move. So, there's clips on this thing, a ton of them, that you can clip and secure the stage together. And I didn't use them because I wanted to show you that you could just take everything apart and do whatever you want with it, right? Now this is your interview stand with Mean Gene and Randy Savage. But you can pull everything apart, and I won't pull it too far apart because some of this is attached. But you can customize it however you want. So I'm already fantasizing about getting one of these at home and doing a NECA Turtles on Tour photo shoot, or Man and the Turtles famous image, or Kiss, or whatever. But this is like a multi-purpose customizable stage. The ramp comes off. You probably can't see that. The ramp comes off. Like everything. Like you can do whatever you want. You can make it super long and a super long walkway. You can extend the ramp to go forward, like those old ramps that used to connect. It's not high enough, but like the ramps that would connect to the ring back in the day were super cool.
Yeah.
So there's tons of options here.
Yeah, you just drove home my point even more. Like, great ideas, all great ideas.
Yeah, and now I need to bust out my Kiss figures because what am I going to do?
Wow, so
it's like a gigantic Lego. But I do agree with Alex West Collects here. Honestly, the figures are just a plus on top of it. They are the whipped cream and the cherry on top. This stage is the real prize here. This thing is a beautiful piece of art at the end of the day. Like I'm telling you, I just seeing it in person really, really sold it. And I was already game, but seeing it live right there on the WWE Superstore, it blew my mind, man.
And, you know, I've been looking obviously every single day at that website and seeing the backers slowly trickle up. But like, I feel like those photos don't do the size justice,
Yeah.
you know, just like, I mean, that's why I brought an elite package, because I think everyone in their minds knows how big an elite package is. But I mean, look at this next to the WCW letter. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like freaking huge.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to convey that other than if we were in the era of like taking stuff on tour back in the old, like, you know, Wizard World days of conventions, and you just take this around from, you know, convention to convention on weekends. But like, you know, how else do you like really convey like how massive this thing actually is?
100%. And I do want to throw that out there for the people that are very worried about like your collection not fitting into this. I mean, we have so many WCW talent already available to us that we've already bought. And I mean, we got Harlem Heat, we have Shockmaster, you name it. Tom's got them all. I mean, even the new Rey Mysterio from Elite 100 goes perfect with this WCW stage. That's just to name a few. I mean, we even got the Goldberg Ultimate. Yeah.
Especially the Goldberg Ultimate is so important because it comes with the smoke, right? Which is like one of the coolest things in terms of posing and everything.
Yeah.
And the fact that immediately you put the smoke in his mouth, you have him on the stage in the entrance, like you're done. You already have, if we had no figures with the stage, you've already got the centerpiece for the display, which is the Goldberg blowing smoke.
100%, man. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing to bring up because it's. I mean, we've been getting WCW figures forever, right? Like, I mean, we've from the beginning of the line basically until now, and we're sitting on them. So it's important that we have a display piece for them. I think another thing I did want to bring up too is like the idea of it being modular. You could bring it down a peg. You could take half that stage basically and make it fit on a shelf. I have my new gen arena back there, you know, it'll fit comfortably there for you to pose your stuff on, make it still a big deal. And you get a beautiful spot to display it. It's awesome.
And I think one of the things we were very cognizant of when we were scaling this down to make it reasonable to own was making it fit on your standard folding table that you would get at, you know, Target or Walmart or Costco. Yeah. So like, you know, I know a lot of people have those setups where they just have their table set up for, you know, their makeshift entrances, plus ring or whatever they're doing. So this works with that, and you can customize it further. So it's really unbelievable to play with, right? And the more that I get a chance to hurriedly play with it, right, due to lack of time, but when I dive in, it's like, oh my God, there's like so many possibilities. And I just want to have this at home with me so I can just like, you know, take a day or two and just like do a photo shoot and just like, you know, go wild with whatever figures I want, WWE and beyond.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about crowdfunding projects and how they work, because I see so many people saying, just give us all the figures and I'll buy it now.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sure some of the people understand it, but I guess some don't. Can you explain? As more orders get backed, it becomes cheaper to produce, which allows you to add more figures in. Can you just tell people about that so everybody gets a full grasp of that?
So I think one of the things that maybe throwing people off with the perception of the crowdfund is the term crowdfund, right? Because crowdfund is traditionally reserved for an upstart, or, you know, you're trying to get something off the ground, you're independent. For us, the crowdfund really is kind of just like inserting the consumer into the place of what a traditional retailer buyer would be, right? So when we make any item, we concept it up, pitch it to them at some point in the process. They tell us, either one or multiple tell us they're interested, and we're saying, hey, if you're interested, we have to hit X amount of units to move forward, right? Every single item works that way in all the big companies. You don't just say like, hey, let's make the Monday Night War line and just make a bunch of them and it'll be terrific. Like, it doesn't work that way. Like, you present it to Walmart, they like it, maybe they ask for some tweaks, and they say, okay, we've given you what you want. We added a Build-A-Figure, and the packaging will reflect your requests. Are you in for the X amount of units that we need to move this forward as a program for you? And they say yes or no. So now we're removing the retailer from the equation because they can't currently take items of this size, and the consumer is in that role. So for that, we need to hit 5,000 units at a minimum to move forward. And that is the minimum that we negotiated with the factory for this item to get the cost of the item, which allows it to be $400. If you go sub 5, that cost the factory skyrockets, and we can no longer charge you $400. We have to charge you way more, right? It goes up a lot. So to, the original point there, as you get more and more backers, the item becomes more profitable. So what you typically see in crowdfunds, not just us, but across the board, especially with large companies, is as that number goes up, we give that profitability, so to speak, back to the consumer, right? With the additional tiers. So when you hit 7K, it's more profitable for us. So we push at least some of that, if not all of it, to you in the form of more action figures.
Absolutely. Which I mean, as a person who buys and collects, I appreciate the more action figures aspect of it on the long run. I do see a lot of concern about shipping and all this stuff, and it's you got to take it at face value, right? Like you guys are trying to give the best value to everybody out there in the collecting world, and I would assume that I would agree with that. It's crazy.
So let me say something here, right? Like, I think I've built some, at least I hope, some credibility with this community. I didn't just come into this, straight out of college and say, I want to work in business, and I land at Mattel, right? Like, I wanted to do this. I was a collector. I wanted to represent you guys on the inside, right? So you have to please trust me when I say, if this thing could have been cheaper, I would have pushed for it to be cheaper. It was honestly much more expensive when I initially presented it to hit our traditional, margin structure. And
Absolutely.
the team believed in it and wanted it to happen. And collectively, we drove that price down to $400. It was so much higher before, like, oh my gosh, right? So, if anything, the things that I attempted to do for the community, my time before I worked here, you have to know that I'm fighting for you, right? And if there was a way to make this happen at a cheaper price, we totally would have done it, right? But $400 is what it is without like eating it, right? So here we are.
Yeah. I honestly don't think you are asking too much from a collector standpoint. I think for the premium product that you're receiving here, it is totally worth the value, and absolutely for all the added costs and stuff. And that was the thing too. When we were touring the Mattel factory, you guys were saying the WWE Monday Night Raw stage would have costed an enormous amount if it was built to scale. And like you worry about the collectors. You guys are concerned about price points and stuff. It's not just a money grab, and that's a very important piece I'm trying to get out there for everybody.
Yeah, I think sometimes when you think of a large company doing crowdfunds like this, and it's a high price point, it is sometimes thought of as a money grab, right? Because you see the $500 and you do the math, but it's not like a Barbie dream house where you're shipping millions of units. I'm making that number up. I don't know what they ship, but you're not shipping millions of units of a Barbie dream house and raking it in. Like, this is like a project for the fans. It's a low run, 5 to 11 or whatever it does, anything in between or more. But it's a low run item that is years of work to make happen. And yes, it does help the line and the company if it moves forward, right? It's a nice, chunk of POS of sales. But ultimately, it's the health of the line is that we make items like this, that we deliver what people have asked for, right? And this is an item that people have asked for, right? Have they asked for other items? Well, yes, but this is a top of the heap as far as asks are concerned. So, these items, they really are fan service items. They truly are, right?
Yeah.
And thankfully, I'm in a company now that thinks that that's important and dedicates a certain amount of SKUs per year to items like this that are really for the diehard fans.
100%. And I do want to say to anybody that's doubting the credibility there, go buy one of the backstage play sets you guys made. Go buy one of the already made entrance stages you guys have made. Quality and fun buildability, right? But awesome stuff always. I mean, you are obviously one of the collectors. You came from where we are, so I appreciate you being honest about it. I appreciate you being upfront about it. I think it's all good for us to get this out in the open, because as a collector myself, $400, it's a little steep, but it's something worth getting into the collection if it's this mass, this beautifully made, this well taken care of. It's not a glamour piece. It is literally a love product. You guys put your heart and souls into it. I can feel it. I can tell when I see it in person. Like you really get the whole gist of how beautiful the thing is in person. A lot of love and detail goes into it.
Yeah. I am reading some of the comments here. I see a comment about the mic and the sound. So if there's a minute, you can toss something to Sam. I'll run and try to get my crappy headset. Before that, I do want to address 2 questions or more that I saw come through about why. Let's see here. Why there were no commercials on WWE TV or social mentions. WWE has been posting it. So they've had at least 1, if not 2, Instagram posts. They've had Instagram stories. We did the Elite Squad with Sam, of course, that video.
Come on.
So we've done.
I mean, for goodness sake, we put Chelsea Green in a gobbledygooker outfit. Like, what do you want? We're trying here.
And Johnny Gargano, for Christ's sake.
So, I mean, we are doing paid ads across social, YouTube, everything. So it is happening. I'm seeing it regularly. If the algorithm, for whatever reason, isn't feeding it to you, and sorry, right? But all that stuff is happening. TV ads, that's expensive, right? So once again, this is a low run item, low profitability item. I hope I'm not saying too much and get a slap on the wrist, but it's a low run, low profitability item. So to justify a TV budget, my gosh, how could you possibly do that, right? And it's not WWE running those commercials. It's USA Network. It's Fox, it's Peacock, right? Those are the ones who are in charge of those ads. Once again, I hope I'm not saying too much, but I feel like it's all out there already, right? If you're in the weeds and pay attention to this stuff. So it's not like, WWE is just like, we're just going to run commercials for this on every Raw. That's USA's deal, right? Yeah. So even if we could run those ads, I don't know that we could afford it with an item like this.
and a company that barely has commercials out there to begin with, are you really going to run up against the high advertising prices that are coming on a Monday Night Raw or a Friday Night SmackDown? It's a lot. It's asking a lot out of not just Mattel but you guys as well.
So I'm gonna dip for 1 second.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let me get my headset.
Sam, what is your favorite WCW moments that you could recollect for me? I mean, from the Ravens, the Glaciers, the La Parkas. I know I've already talked about.
First of all, can you imagine, right? I mean, I know that Steve has a dream job for all of us.
Yeah.
But I'm sitting here, right? And I'm thinking about the fact that he's sitting here answering all these questions. People are giving him crap. Even on the West Coast right now, it's what is it, 6:30 at night? He's still at work, dude. Yeah. That's his office. He hasn't even gotten a chance to go home yet. Can we wrap our heads around that? That this is a night show. This is Fig Night, and he's still at his office. That's insane.
That's a clip for sure. Right? For sure, man.
Favorite WCW moments, though. I mean, so I love, and and it ties back in with the stage, and with the Monday Night Wars sets, with the elites and the ultimates that they're putting out. But I love when the NWO took over Nitro, and I'm just thinking about with that set, you can get your little, go to the fabric store. You could probably do it with Kleenexes or whatever. But go to the fabric store, and remember they put those they just covered the WCW with big white sheets that said NWO on it. You can do you can do that. I'm sure there it is. Put NWO on a Kleenex, put it right over the WCW sign.
The best.
And like you're revisiting
those Orlando shows when they were at the Epcot Center, man. It's the best shit ever.
But I mean, that's why to me, like, the scale is so insane and so important, because we've all reenacted things with figures since we're children. You know, this is the whole point. But there's just something when you step back for a second and you realize, like, oh, I've now got all the pieces here.
Yeah, 100%.
To not only do this, but to do it to scale. It's so cool.
Yeah, and we got the Scott Halls, we got the Kevin Nashes, we got the Hollywood Hogans, we have the six, like we have the full. We have
a six-pack. We have a six-pack. There was no six-pack. We have an elite six-pack.
Yeah, like what more can we possibly? We're just being selfish at this point. This is
we have you know what? We have my favorite. I mean, it's in my top 5 favorite wrestling matches of all time. Period. Is Ray versus Eddie from Halloween Havoc '97. And we've got that purple Phantom Ray.
Beautiful.
We've got WCW Eddie. So it's just so cool. This is what it's all about, right?
Yeah,
like
this is what it's all about.
Yeah.
So I mean, not only do you have those older figures, but we have a new Monday Night War line coming. And I'm hearing things that I'm like, I want to talk about this a little bit more deeply, right? Scott Hall. So scoop for the viewers right now, leg change is approved. The bulldog legs work, and the height will be kind of in the ballpark of accurate for Scott Hall.
Yes.
So he will have the tucked in jeans into the boots, and of course, you know, as we said before, he's going to have the ponytail head as a bonus head. The jeans will have a nice wash on them and everything, so it'll look really nice for final product. Then you mentioned Halloween Havoc Eddie. So exclusive reveal for you guys, because you did say reveals on the promo photo, and I was like, oh my god, I have to reveal something. Okay, so pending final approval and pending licensor approval, Ultimate Edition Wave 2 of Monday Night War will have an Eddie Guerrero from that time period of Halloween Havoc. It'll be from a Nitro, but it'll be like roughly that look.
Beautiful.
Ultimate Edition.
Yeah.
Ultimate Edition Eddie with the long hair, slimmer face. So yes.
That's awesome.
That is amazing.
I know you just mentioned that Scott Hall figure. To me, that's one of the most shocking moments I've seen in wrestling. When he walked out on Nitro that night and he's like, you know who I am, but you don't know why. That's an iconic moment. So to be getting that look, I'm so stoked for that figure, man.
100%.
But when you talk about like walkouts on Nitro, I think one of my favorite things that I found out at the WrestleMania Superstore display was when we were talking about the Monday Night Wars Elite line and how it'll have the Build-A-Figure. And not only is it like, hey, this is a non-suited Build-A-Figure. This is Lex Luger. And I'm looking at this and I'm like, oh yeah, I didn't even put it into context. Like, that's a pretty big deal, a non-suited Build-A-Figure. And I look at this Lex Luger and I see him and I looked at Steve and I said, soft goods puffy shirt, and he looked at me and he said, soft goods puffy shirt.
He's got the puffy shirt, damn it.
You know what I love? I think in all of our minds, we picture the Seinfeld puffy shirt.
Yeah,
of course.
And it really wasn't. Like, it looks kind of normal. But like, I think that, so I hope nobody's disappointed when the shirt is a normal dress shirt.
I wonder if you had actually just done the Seinfeld puffy shirt, if there would have been a Mandela effect where everybody would have been like, yeah, that's 100% the shirt.
It's the puffy shirt. Yeah. It's beautiful. No, that is awesome. But
Wow.
I did want to jump into that. We do have a Monday Night Wars Ultimate Edition line, an Elite line coming out. That is huge for not only collectors, but people that want to back the stage, have this part of their collections. That is massive, man. We got to see a sneak peek over WrestleMania weekend, but I mean, if you want to take the floor and talk about it a little bit, please, Steve, we would absolutely love it.
Sorry, I was reading the comments. You want me to talk about the Monday Night War Ultimates?
Please, absolutely, and the Elites and whatever you got in the plan, man.
so let me just bring up something I saw in the chat. Will these figures come out if they don't get funded? They won't. The Ultimates won't come out. Could we revisit a red and yellow WCW Hulk at some point? Okay, yeah, sure, right? I think that's reasonable. But these exact iterations, they're not coming as Ultimates. They're exclusive as Ultimates to this stage. So let's say Ray doesn't happen. I mean, we did it already, but do we do a basic of this, Ray? Okay, that's kind of on the table. I guess that's fair. But we're not going to do these particular looks as Ultimates should they not get funded. So that's one thing I wanted to address right off the bat. And the line, the Monday Night War Ultimate line, like that's exciting because there's a lot of talent that haven't had Ultimates yet that a lot of people have been asking about, and there's redos that people have been asking about, like Brett. Well, I want Brett in all black. Well, you're getting him, right? He's coming. Roddy's second now Ultimate, but a later career Roddy is coming. Eddie Guerrero, as I mentioned, this particular Eddie from this era is something people have wanted. And I always see like, hey, how come we don't have more Eddies? So we're throwing Eddie in there. And then, to round that out, I won't say who it is, but it's going to be another first-time Ultimate that's been long requested in that second spot. So,
and
this is...
And I think, if we're just like, I'm just putting pieces together because obviously this is news to me too.
Ew.
But if you look at the way they do Monday Night Wars, Elites is 2-2. Ultimates, the first series is 1-1. So as we're speculating, I would imagine as a fan that whoever this first time Ultimate is will be on the WWE side of on the Monday Night Raw side of the Monday Night Wars. So let's let the speculation run wild.
Like the way
they will. And I will say Bill and I just finalized that yesterday, actually. That's why I said like pending licensor approval. And in a few moments, it was just like toyed around with like, hey, what if it's just 2 WWE guys or just 2 WCW guys, and then we just double up next time? I was like, let's not do that. So we really, kind of leaned in hard to make that 1-1 thing work this time around. So
Steve just revealed this has been fixed.
Yeah, pay attention, Chico.
Oh,
okay,
there it is.
They are.
The
There
boots
they are.
and the jeans. They're all
and
part
this
of
is
the
final
machismo.
product: orange legs with green hips.
Yes,
there you go. You didn't say not to do that, so we did it, but we did fix the legs.
The starburst accuracy is amazing. I'm all here for it.
It's delicious.
How much you listen to what the people have to say, and if you can make it happen when you hear the feedback, you go out of your way to make it happen. There's the proof in the pudding right here.
100%.
I mean, these things, a couple things, right? We, on this brand, like to show you things very early, sometimes as much as a year in advance, right? And, when I started, it was like, hey, show us more. We want to know more. And we are. So that means some of the things you see will be like very early work in progress and a first pass at what the factory sends us as a result of the information that design sends them, right? So there's been times when I've seen Bill clearly send out perfect instructions on something, and then they'll send it back and the parts are wrong, or there's a pointing finger, but it's the tiny Freddie Blassie one with the ring, but it's supposed to be big and bulky because it's the Hulkster. Like, it just happens, right? Because there's a language barrier, there's thousands of tools, right, that they're looking through to see if they have available for us. So things happen. So things like this, when we showed you something that is so early, it's not Bulldog, but Razor, so early, like, yes, we were able to fix it. It's reasonable. Like, we heard you and we were already working on it anyway, but like, hey, we are listening, and when we can make something happen, we're gonna jump on it and do it.
Yeah.
I have a quick question. I've heard a lot of the international people questioning the price. Can you touch on that a little bit for them?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously there's certain things in my control and certain things out of my control. So if I don't speak perfectly to this, forgive me, because it is a little out of my wheelhouse and job, and other people handle it, right? So I don't want to like speak out of turn or say things that are incorrect. But I've been given I think 2 or 3 statements to pass on at this point. And when I see people doing the math based on the latest statements, they're finding some sort of like wiggle room discrepancy of like $30 or something, and I don't know 100% what that's accounted for, or how they're actually doing the math, or if that math lines up with what the Mattel Creations team has from the person who's or the group that is handling that international shipping. So I can't really say like, yes, you're right, it's $30 over. I don't know. Maybe there's something that's being officially accounted for, the rates are different or the shipping, but the bulk of that overage is really the shipping of a gigantic item to various territories, right? Imagine yourself going to the post office and shipping 2 new generation arenas to the UK, and think of how much that would be. I know when I ship a reasonable box back home to Pennsylvania, it's like $80. So, yes, maybe there's discounted rates and stuff, but it's still very expensive. So for sure, a lot of that is going to the shipping cost. And then, of course, they're charging, taxes and duties, if applicable, up front now rather than at the time of arrival. So that is a little bit different. So,
to your point, I had to ship a box of laundry home to New York from Los Angeles. It was like $65. It was ridiculous. I wanted to just buy new clothes.
That's why we don't ship luggage, Sam. No.
I don't ship luggage when I'm traveling, so I don't have to carry it. So,
but it's totally understandable. Yeah, I get the international costs are a little bit higher and everything like that. It's just it's part of the game, right? It's part of the playing field. It's part of what we have to deal with.
And I will say that, all these comments, I'm screen capping them, if they're being DM'd to me or in my Instagram comments or on the forums, I'm screen capping them and sending them along. And that team, they are actively working on seeing if there are any ways to improve that, right? But up until this point, there hasn't been anything that could be changed or tweaked.
Yeah. You mean you don't control everything at Mattel, Steve? I mean, come on.
I wish. I wish.
You had a question, Tom. I know you were talking about something.
Teeing it up. He's mustering up the strength because it's a hard one. Steve's gonna hate me if I ask this, but I'm gonna do it. For the fans.
I mean, I had the JJ Dillon Build-A-Figure.
Yep.
A guy I traded. He's already laughing. That I traded figures with, and I just gave it to him because out of the kindness of my heart, because I wasn't the biggest WCW guy. Sam knows who it is. I didn't expect that thing to skyrocket up to like $100 that it is now. But are there more chances of backstage people from WCW and maybe like a Mean Gene WCW figure coming out down the line?
Yeah, sure. I mean, Monday Night Wars have Build-A-Figures. So totally. I don't want to just do suited characters, suited talent as Build-A-Figures. Obviously Lex is kind of breaking frame there. And we do have some talent penciled in that are straight up wrestlers in tights and trunks. Yes. So that's all in the pipeline, right? I did like a faux 3-year or 4-year, whatever I did plan for this, just to see how long we could keep going, and it can go beyond that, right? But realistically, like it's already kind of mapped out, and we'll tweak here and there if new people are signed. We'll plug them in and make switches. But yeah, we'll get a lot of tertiary world building talent in that line, plus everywhere else that we do legendary figures.
So you're saying there's a chance for a Norman Smiley ultimate, right? Like that's what's coming down.
I wouldn't rule it out.
Sorry,
that
Norman
title out.
Smiley. Yeah, no, that's great.
Yeah, and also, I think everybody that should have a JJ Dillon figure has a JJ Dillon figure, right? So
I can't argue that.
I wasn't able to get mine, but for other reasons, it's okay.
I definitely can't argue that. That's why I gave it to you, Sam.
I appreciate it.
This was all a ploy for Tom to talk to Sam about the JJ Dillon figure.
Want to give it back? Maybe it was to borrow.
Yeah.
I'm not an Indian giver.
I gave you my return address now.
I think sometimes like that as a collector, it's good karma, and we get good things that come our way too, right? 100%. So it's like sometimes you get something and it's like, oh, I got this for $5, and then it's like worth $200 6 months from now. So I think sometimes people focus on the moment and, you know, long game. Like if you're a good person, and you have decent collector habits and you give back to the community, I think you come out as a winner in the long run.
Yeah, collector karma, right? Where we all go through it.
I mean, speaking of something similar of like, you know, long game, like, you know, I've talked to you guys before, and usually I don't like to talk about secondary market value of things, right? When you talk about the value of an item like this, and some people are like, well, I want all, you know, 5 figures for it to feel like a $400 value, right? Okay, it's fine. Everyone has their own value perception, right? Like, you're not going to argue with something like that. But at the end of the day, if this only gets to 5, then you have the second and third rarest ultimate figures in the line behind
100%.
Black-Hearted Sergeant Slaughter. So it's like you kind of automatically, you know, just based on our own shopping habits and secondary market prices, you have 2 figures that are practically the cost or more than the cost of the whole item, right?
Yeah.
After the fact. So, you know, it's not like, you know, even if you don't unlock like the full 11K, which I mean, look, that it might not be probable, right? It'd be great if we did, but like even if you don't unlock that, you're still getting really low run figures. And I think, you know, some of the new gen guys are between what, like $80 to $200, you know, depending
100%.
on
Yeah.
the auction. So, you know, look, it's part of our hobby, right? It's not something that I usually want to push, but it exists out there, and it is part of our value perception when we think about these things.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, one of them, Scott Steiner. Like, let's keep that in mind. One of them is Big Papa Pump. Like, that's a figure that people have been waiting for since like pretty much the start of the line, right? Like that's one of the most popular WCW characters, and I can't imagine that we would get. I would guess I can't see a context where we would get a heel singleted Ultimate Scott Steiner, right?
Yeah.
Like of all the looks that he had, that specific one, that very early into his heel run, Scott Steiner with the full white singlet with the straps on and everything, like that's one of those that, like, I think in the future people will go, oh no, I need that look. That look is not done very often.
Yeah.
And you need to have that look in the collection.
Yeah, I think, you know, of course we're going to do more Scott Steiner figures, right? Like that nobody's trying to trick anybody, and this is the only way to get them. And I hate that too. Like the only way to get a character period is behind a paywall. So like, yes, we will do more Scotts, but to your point, Sam, like for this look as an ultimate, like, you know, that's kind of like the hook here, right? To get this look that was a Toy Biz figure back in the day. And it was early Scott Steiner, because I was looking, like, as we were researching how to improve the deco here on him, I was looking through Nitros, and he debuted in this gear, wrestled for a few weeks, and then was injured and didn't wrestle again until like the fall. And when he came back, he had the short trunks. So this is like your way to get, like, you know, a moment in time Scott Steiner before he like fully realized like the potential of this new character direction he was going in. So, and it was very superstar Billy Graham, right? In the initial weeks of it. So he really fleshed it out by the time he came back. But yeah, I mean, this is, you know, it's not as out there as like a Doink the Clown execution, but it is kind of that level of gear selection, right? It is like,
absolutely.
that's your way to get like this early heel Scott Steiner gear.
100%. And while we are on Scott Steiner, I know you mentioned it in the wrestling figure forums page, but updated deco for the Scott Steiner. I know it's not the V singlet. I know you're working hard on getting that U shape singlet and some extra deco on there. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that, please?
Yeah, so when we got the sculpts back from our partners, maybe Gentle Giant, I want to say, sculpted him, we did see the V shape, and I immediately emailed Bill and said, hey, can we correct this? So, you know, things are in motion. You got to do your shoots. We had to 3D print this. There was no time initially to tweak anything in time for shoot day.
Of course.
So, you know, Bill was on it. He agreed. I gave him, you know, examples. And like, look, that singlet style with the U, like that was what he had as a tag team competitor also, right? So if we ever want to do some sort of ultimate Scott Steiner in tag team gear, like he could reuse that torso, right? So we wanted to make sure we got the torso right. And work in progress. So anyway, it's everything is work in progress with the item, because it is truly like it's a year out. It's a crowd fund, and that's why we are able to make little pivots and tweaks here and there, because it's kind of like that entrepreneurial type of an item.
Yeah.
And the gear, I think there's a few variations of the gear that have this star pattern. One has his face on it. There's one that I saw that has an NWO logo, but I didn't see that actually on Nitro in my scouring the archives. So maybe that was a Thunder or a pay-per-view or something. So I think it's going to be one of the variations of some sort of logo graphic, or maybe his face on it or something. But that's all like pending licensor approval and reference photos and whatnot. So
absolutely, still good though that you are working to improve. Because I mean, who wouldn't want that, right?
Yeah, and in reality, like I said, this is a year out, and any item that we would show you like at a Comic-Con, right? Like that's July, and we kind of go as far as June of the next year. That's our cutoff. We don't want to show anything beyond that, right?
Yeah.
So in that span of time of 11 months, a lot can happen. Like we changed, Scott Hall's legs.
Yeah.
There's still evolutions, reasonable evolutions that can happen to parts and deco.
Yeah, and speaking of evolutions, I do want to talk about the evolution of what's next to come. We do have the Monday Night Nitro ring with the Ultimate Eric Bischoff. I mean, that is huge, absolutely huge. I got the absolute pleasure of seeing the Eric Bischoff, early on, but the likeness is there. Unbelievable quality on it. Tell the people who weren't lucky enough to, to be there for it what it looks like, how it feels, where you got coming from.
So like I said, I wanted to assemble it but didn't have time. So there's your ring mat. The color is wrong, so this mat is going to be corrected to the accurate ring colors, but it's got the Nitro logo in the center. Of course, no TNT logo, because it's TNT, it's another company. So I saw those questions, right? Hey, it's not accurate. It doesn't have the TNT logo. You got to remove that stuff sometimes. You see that on our figures, like Rated R Edge, like it's being altered now on our figures, the deco. So it is what it is, but it's close, right? When you look at it, like unless you're paying attention to the fine details, like hopefully that TNT logo missing doesn't bother you.
Looks good to me. No.
Ropes and turnbuckles, not as exciting as seeing them on the ring, but it's got the red turnbuckles, black ropes for Nitro. And then of course the Nitro ring skirts, right, for those. And this is the higher quality fabric that you saw in the new gen and Attitude Era ring. So it's really nice and thick fabric. And the Bischoff I didn't find in time, but he's got two different shirts. He's got an NWO shirt and then a plain logo-less shirt, so you can do the before and after. Yeah, smiling face, pointing hands. And that's one where I feel like when I saw the sculpt initially, I was like, oh, I don't know. Like, is this good enough? And it's the process. You see something as a gray model. And then when I saw the test shot of it here, for you guys as part of our influencer day, it just looked phenomenal. Right. Yeah. And sometimes it just takes that. And that's why Bill's the master, because he can visualize what this is going to look like in plastic and vice versa and everything in between. So I'm excited. That Bischoff was, a long time coming. I pushed to get him into the line and under a deal with our partners at WWE for the longest time. So when they told us, that we got him, like it was on.
Yes.
And then what's great about that too is if you have either like a Jerry Lawler or maybe the new Best of Elite Harley Race, and you can get the crown. And then if you have any of the old Biker Mice from Mars figures, you can get a motorcycle. That's the first motorcycle I thought of, Biker Mice from Mars. And you can lower Eric.
Come on, Sam, Slam Cycle.
Slam Cycle or the Slam Cycle. Biker Mice from Mars or the Slam Cycle. You can lower it down and lower Eric Bischoff into the ring. Actually, I have a question for Steve that I'm sure that you will. Hopefully you haven't gotten him as much yet, because we're only 24 hours removed, but since you're here and you're under the gun, how long is it going to be? We saw it last night. A new title was introduced, the WWE Heavyweight Championship, completely new design and everything. Are we a year out from seeing a figure-sized WWE Heavyweight Championship? Are we closer than that?
I think we're a year out.
Okay.
Sorry, wah wah. We didn't. Sometimes things are shown to us ahead of time, and sometimes they're kept a secret. And I as a fan, I like the secrets, right? It is kind of like, oh man, like I wish I could have experienced that reveal live for Edge's return, right?
Yeah.
But it is what it is. It's okay. So anyway, in this case, I think what we should do, in my opinion, is wait to see who actually wins the title in May at Night of Champions, and then that person should theoretically come with the title a year from now.
Yeah.
And how about we do Mattel Creations Ultimate the way we did Cody at WrestleMania? The first heavyweight title is on an Ultimate version of whoever wins it in the gear from Night of Champions. Are we brainstorming here?
What if it's Cody or Logan though?
That's a good point. That's a good point. That would be
less deco cost, right?
Yeah, that's a good point. All right, maybe we take our time on that.
I'm open to that idea for sure, right? But I'll be my usual non-committal self. We'll see. We'll see, to be determined.
Maybe Cody dyes the hair black, and he gets some new deco.
Cody, give us a little something there, right?
We get an evil Cody, right? I'll be here.
Grow the mustache back.
Yeah,
Dashing Cody Rhodes.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm excited still with all the reveals. I'm still pumped that we're finally getting Captain Lou in the Superstars line. I'm hoping that means maybe in a Coliseum collection, we're going to be getting the Ultimate Edition Captain Lou down the line. Those reveals WrestleMania weekend were just amazing. I was so excited at everything I saw, Steve. Just anything you wanted to touch on that from that weekend?
Oh my gosh. I mean, you might have to prompt me, right? Like that seems like ages ago, and we're deep into our toy fair now, our internal toy fair that's taking place across the street, plus Comic-Con coming up. But I mean, you mentioned Captain Lou, so that's of course exciting. He's debuting first in Superstars. And yes, we will do other form factors, right? Of course. I think just from and I got this question on the forum, like how come he is appearing in Superstars first? And I don't remember if I had time to answer it or not, so I'll just answer it again here. It was just that a slot opened up in Superstars. We decided that we needed to bump somebody out and push them to a later wave, and we had Lou, so we plugged him in, and we were able to make it work from a schedule standpoint. So yes, I guess theoretically we could have blew up a different lineup elsewhere in Elites or something and got him in there first, but Superstars is pretty appropriate for Captain Lou.
100%.
Yeah, and that test shot figure that we saw looks pretty awesome.
I mean, he was the most wanted figure I had in my collection now, so now I got to rethink who would be my next person to bother you about next time. No, but I want to say one thing, because we're getting to the home stretch. What do we have, about 10 days left for people to pre-order this ring?
Sure. I don't know anymore.
Depends on when they're watching, Tom. No.
Last year, with the Macho, the last day of the pre-order for Macho, we saw the numbers spike. I'm assuming a lot of people, the FOMO is going to start to hit people over the next week. I'm hoping for good things. I think we'll see it. But this is my message to all the people I see out there saying, I'm only going to get it when it gets to this many. Stop with that. Because if there's 5,000 people like you saying that, and you're all thinking that way, it's never going to get backed. If you want it, you have to back it now. And that's how we'll get there. Because I am sure there are enough fans who want this. We all need to stop sitting on the sidelines, and we all need to back it now. Not only to get this, but to continue making sure we get other we want the Raw stage. So if you're thinking about it and you're iffy, let's just stop. I'm not telling people who don't want it to back it. I'm not saying if you don't have the money to back it. But the people on the fence, it's time to back it. Let's make this thing happen. It's going to be an amazing piece to your collection. There's no reason not to back it if you want it. There's none.
Yeah, I think the key to a lot of successful crowdfunds is once it hits that momentum part, right?
Yeah.
And for the new gen, it was the last kind of 2 days of the Macho Man early bird that really did it, right? Here, obviously we're being hopeful that, hey, earlier is better, right? Let's start the momentum earlier. But my gut tells me those last 2 days is where we're going to see the community start getting together, and we'll have hopefully a similar experience of collectiveness in this, to where we're all like, glued to our computers or phones and sharing stuff on social media and trying to get this not only backed, but unlock the tiers as well, like we did with Doink and the ring skirts. Like that, what a day. Like that was my favorite day in the community ever, even if I was removed and wasn't tied to the item. Like everyone came together, it was like rallying cries going out, hashtags going out, and it was so fun. And it just felt like we were all like unified finally after a very rocky crowdfund and after lots of understandable different opinions of what should be done, whether it's the crowdfund or figures. Like everyone has an opinion, but in that moment, that day, like, oh my gosh, like everyone just like got together and made it happen. So I'm hoping for that here. It's such a badass item, right?
Yeah.
Like this is never going to happen again. A Nitro stage, like really, like unless if you wait, it's just going to get more expensive. So I don't think you can ever make this happen again after this moment in time. So fingers crossed. We get there next week. I believe this community can do it. And I want to talk about a comment Matt Cardona made about like, hey, and I'm paraphrasing, of course, hey, if we don't make this happen, what are we even doing here or whatever. He didn't mean everybody needs to buy this, right? Yeah. He means as a community, as a collector community who collects wrestling figures, we deserve items like this and should be able to make something like this happen, right? There should theoretically be 5,000 of us at least who want this thing and can make it happen, right? Yeah. I think that's what he meant. That's how I took it. And there were some texts, and that's what I got out of it, right?
No,
like nobody's saying everyone needs to buy this, right? And that kind of ties into the whole like, what's next after this, and some people thinking we're holding another item hostage because of this.
Yeah,
I guess in reality, not happening makes it really hard for other items to happen. Of course, that's just regular business. If something fails, like it does make it more difficult to continue with the same type of thing, right? You're not going to want to repeat a mistake. Yeah. And with the Raw stage specifically, like the panels here, part of the ramp, some of the four-sided lighting truss structures, that can be reused, which would bring that price of the Raw stage down and hopefully make it no longer astronomical. So it's not trying to get more out of people and sucker into a Nitro stage first and make them buy a Raw stage second. Like if you just want one or the other, that's fine, right? But we're just hoping at least this one that there's 5,000 people or more who want this particular stage, right? And then the community wins, of course, because we can keep these going and it helps bring a slightly more affordable Raw stage to life, theoretically.
Yeah. No, and I mean that's the overall trick of it, right? You back the WCW stage, the Raw stage will be more in reason because the parts are already kind of there, and you won't take so much tweaking and tooling to make it all work. And I wish people would see that more.
I agree.
Yeah.
Any closing thoughts that you guys want to get in?
I mean, do you want to see anything? I have this here. I have the ring,
can we get some lighting modules a little bit?
I can try.
I believe in you.
Do the batteries still work? There we go.
I know that those batteries are fresh because they were changed about 45 seconds before we went live with our live stream.
They died already. They died within a day. So this prototype is eating up the power. So
and that's another thing. It is going to be able to be plugged in by USB-C and also remote operated, correct?
Yeah, they may have just died already.
There we go.
Here we go. But yes, you can plug this in USB-C, and there is a remote here with it.
It's got the Nitro logo on it.
Yeah, and
awesome!
We didn't do sculpted details because once again, if we get to a Raw stage, this is reuse, and that brings the cost of the Raw stage down. We don't have to tool up a new remote control for it.
I love it.
So yeah, I mean, I don't know what else to say. Like this thing is massive. It's huge. There's the ring with it.
Yeah, you see the figures next to it. You guys you can get a little bit of depth of scale here, but also you are funding the one and only WCW Monday Nitro remote that goes with the stage. I mean, that is a very, very important piece of the collection. If you are a nut and you need to have everything, I mean, that is huge.
Right? I see framed Nitro remote controls. In
Yeah,
some
it's going with my Nitro grill menu. I'm going to put it. I love it though. I mean, literally, it is a part of the collection. It is a huge, cool thing to have. I'm here for all of it.
And I think one other thing, like if we want to scour quickly any outstanding like questions, I want to like be open if there's anything that we missed that some people have pressing questions on. Like let's be transparent and tell people what's up.
I saw multiple times people asking what the turnbuckle material is made out of.
It's fabric. It's not vinyl. It's fabric. So, I mean, you could take a look here. The lighting isn't perfect. I'm sorry, but it does have a good look of the Nitro turnbuckle.
Very clean.
It doesn't look too fuzzy. But yes, it is a fabric and not a vinyl. I think the vinyl would actually crack. So, this is probably better for long term, to be honest with you. Yes, in the moment, the vinyl, you probably go, oh my God, yeah, it's vinyl. How cool. And then a year from now, after it's in your hot basement and it cracks, like everyone will be upset. So I think long term, that's probably the best solution.
Yeah. Listen, I love the fabric turnbuckles. I think they look great. They look great with the Raw stage. They look great with the new Gen Arena. I can't wait to see what they look like with the WCW one.
You want to answer this question, Steve?
If this isn't funded, what happens as far as a crowdfund? I'm guessing something super small. Crowdfunds in general, we have to have those conversations. I don't think I can justify coming into management with a huge item again, especially hot off the heels of this. Like, I mean, they would think I'm crazy, right? Like anybody would, any business would. Does it mean crowdfunds are done? I don't know about that. But there's always learnings to be had. Maybe we tweak it. Maybe it's just an open pre-order like the old Castle Grayskull was, where you still have to hit a number, right? You have to hit your minimum. I do personally think maybe the crowdfund terminology is messing with people. Yeah. And that's okay, right? This is still all relatively new. So I don't know what happens. I'll keep trying. But it does make, doing something of this size and scale very difficult to do going forward. And this just goes away. Like, we can't do a smaller version of this or whatever, right? It's like, retailer, if they want an entrance stage, they're going to want the modern entrance stage for kids. They're not going to want like, hey, do a kids version of the Nitro stage.
Yeah.
Like just go out and buy the Toy Biz one if that's the case.
Or give us $200 with LEDs that we can put into something. It's just not feasible. Absolutely.
Yeah. Anything else?
Any other questions here?
Here we go. I like this one. Questions outside of the Nitro and Attitude Era stage. Can we ever see an ECW stage or a playset of the Hammerstein Ballroom / balconies from 2005-ish?
Piper's Pit. I don't know if any of those need to be crowdfunded, right?
Yeah.
I think that's just like once a year you do something like that, right? And really that's what the market can handle, right? Once or twice a year you do something like that. We did the Raw letters. So I feel like they're pretty simple, right? It's like panels and stuff. Yeah. So I don't know if any of those are out of the question of just being able to do, unless we like souped it up somehow and maybe make it crowdfund worthy.
Yeah.
But in my opinion, I feel like they're accomplishable and we can do them
Understandable.
in the right moments in time. Hammerstein Ballroom, that's a little more difficult. And I'll give a shout out to, once again, I hope I don't get in trouble because I am at Mattel now. I'm at home like I usually am for these things. But like Extreme Sets does an amazing Hammerstein Ballroom extreme pop-up. And he was kind enough to send me one. We go back a long way, pre-Mattel days, and that thing is amazing. And I'm strapped for time, but I can't wait to do a shoot with it with the light up neon entrance and the Raw letters.
100%, yeah.
So cool.
No, super awesome, man.
Can I give you I'm going to give you a crowdfund. I don't even know if it's a crowdfund necessarily because it's a smaller scale thing. But it's but it's real geeky, but I think it'd be awesome. And I think you guys could pull it off. And it's been on TV now. I feel like enough that you could justify it. I just don't know if it's a retail thing. I think you guys could make a gorilla position.
Ooh.
I have pitched it multiple times. Robert Rudman has pitched it multiple times. I Look, I say this, and I don't want it to sound cocky, but I don't think there's ever been anything somewhat reasonable that a fan has pitched to us that we haven't thought about. And that's not because of us. It's just we're fans like you, right? So of course I want a gorilla position, right? Of course I do. Of course I want all this like weird, wild stuff. I mean, we made the goon, we made the gobbledygooker, right? So, we're gonna, tell us, right? Because we know then, it's top of mind, and the more noise it is, we can kind of say, hey, look at all this chatter. People do want this thing. But we just haven't been able to get the gorilla position off the ground yet.
Yes.
We need important people in the back to be included with the set to yell at the announcers, right?
And it's not monsoon season anytime soon, right?
Primetime set. I would love a primetime set.
Yes, absolutely. Especially that new Andre. Oh my goodness, it'd be beautiful.
I forget the person's name, so I apologize. But he made an amazing kind of custom primetime set, and he was selling those customs on Instagram, and they're fantastic. But I'd love to get an official primetime set with Gorilla, Bobby, and maybe Roddy or something.
Here's another one, and I'm sure that this is, because this is one everybody mentions, right? But I think there's one key thing here, right? Obviously, the barbershop with the Bruce Beefcake, with Sean in the leather jacket. I'm sure that this is something. But the one figure that I feel like doesn't get mentioned with all of this that I think would be the perfect stretch goal figure would be shaving cream covered Kid Justice.
Have we talked about this? I feel like I've told you this.
Not on record. No.
We literally have tried to get that Sid made. Yes, with the exploded shaving cream. Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely love it.
We have the whole thing now for the Piper's Pit with Hogan and Andre in a suit. We just needed Jesse Ventura to complete that. That's
I wish, I know.
Most wanted figure.
Yeah. Not time to bring up conspiracies. No.
I feel like the good thing is we've definitely turned a corner with a lot of these like legendary talent or celebrity talents over the years. And it's like we've been consistent with at least one new major crossover talent a year. And then, some other additional signings as well. Like we finally got the head shrinkers, right? So there's more coming, and, it's there you go. That Fatu was especially on my list because we had Rikishi, and I'm like, let's just do it. And Bill is anti-half tag team unless we get into huge arguments, and I force him somehow to do them. But I get where he's coming from. It does suck to have one, but anyway, we waited and we got both, so that's great. And more of that and more celebs. Just you got to be in it for the long game, and I know we are. And I think if you look at things as a whole, do we have, I would love for someone to number check me on this. Do we have more legends now than, classic superstars had as a whole, right? When we play the long game, we're getting these signings to happen. If you do individual number of talent, do we now finally have more?
Yeah, that's a good question.
I'll say this on behalf of all the fans, the Legend series, starting with this one that just hit the shelves, like the next few lines we've seen are amazing. And I feel like we have to thank you for that because I know you're the one working to get these guys.
All of them have been amazing, Tom.
We've seen a lot of people recycle through there, but now we're getting fresh faces in there, and it gets me even more excited for the line.
Absolutely.
So thank you for that.
And I know people who maybe haven't been in the weeds as much as I am as a collector have told the communities before, like, hey, these guys sell, the ones you see often, they drive the business. So Undertaker allows Brother Love to be made, right? Because you make tons of Undertaker. He allows, so Roman Reigns, he allows, your first time in the line talent from NXT to be made earlier, right? And you can wait until they get elevated to the main roster and get some visibility, but like that's how it works. And it's like the core collector community is very small, and the bulk of the business is built on casuals, right? So the casuals buying all those figures, they're helping us get all our first time in the line, modern talent and legends. So maybe some people won't want me to say this, but you don't have to buy everything. You know what I mean? Like some of that stuff is built for the casuals to keep the line healthy.
Absolutely.
Right? And then buy your first time in the line. Make your own rules and change your own rules and do whatever you want. But nobody has to buy every single thing. You know, sometimes it's like, okay, another Roman. Well, that means I'm going to get, you know, I don't know, whoever. Dragon Lee, right?
Absolutely.
That's not an official reveal, but you know, but that is how it works, right? So when you see another Rey Mysterio, know that because of that Rey, you're getting whoever you. Oh, I only want one person from this wave. Well, you're getting that one person from that wave because Rey is anchoring that wave and selling to the masses.
100%
information. So thank you for sharing that. I hope everybody gets that.
Yeah. Buy more Johnny Knoxvilles. No.
How many have you bought, Mike? That's what I want to know.
I bought 4.
Bought
but 2 are for fix-ups. Don't worry.
Sam, thank you for taking time out of your Tuesday night and joining us tonight. Tell everybody where they could find you online and everywhere.
Both of you.
Both. I'll go first. Action Figure Attack on Instagram. Maybe that's the same for TikTok. Action Fig Attack on Twitter. And Action Figure Attack on the forums, of course. I'm very active on the Ringside forum still. So
yes, and thank you for doing that. We appreciate that.
For sure. And I'm not Sam everywhere. Maybe not Sam Roberts on TikTok. Actually, I think not Sam was taken, so I had to go not Sam Roberts on TikTok. But yeah,
bastards.
And I'm putting the Not Sam Wrestling podcast. The full podcasts are now going up on the Not Sam Wrestling YouTube channel. So yeah, if
Love
that's something you want to check out, then go check it out.
More eyes on the prize.
Jim and Sam every morning, Sirius XM. I listen.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah.
He's one half of Jim and Sam.
Yeah.
Yeah. We don't talk about like wrestling or figures as much on that show, but
when you mention wrestling and Jim starts talking about Chief Jay Strongbow and Bob Backlund.
I do think there was an episode where I tried to explain crowdfunding. I think it was during the New Gen arena, and I tried to explain to like a room full of comedians why this was so great. So, but there was at the live show we did at the Comedy Store, not Samomania, we opened it up for Q&A, and somebody stepped up and the first question was, "Hey, this question's for Sam. Sam, have you back to Nitro Arena?"
Awesome.
Love it. Love to hear it. Love to feel it.
All you people watching tonight, please follow us, like, subscribe, go to theturnbuckletavern.com. All of our links are there. We are official Fig Night on Instagram. Go to theturnbuckletavern.com. Again, all of our links are there. Please follow, like, and subscribe everywhere you possibly can. Guys, I cannot thank you enough for spending this Tuesday night with us. Everybody, please back the stage.
Yes.
Back it. It's going to be great. Until next time, for Mike, for Sam, for Steve, I'm Tom. See you next week. Fig Guys out.